Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if it's your first time around here.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if it's your first time around here.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yes, I suppose you're right, Michael. I really need to get some help. Anyway, back to Marti Blagborough in a few moments. I want to discuss here how auditors can be defeated and how this horrible activity can be brought to an end. It will require effort to stop it, because the people who have the power to stop this will have to be persuaded to take a strategic approach to the problem. What I mean by a strategic approach is that instead of responding and reacting to specific incidents involving auditors, what is needed is for auditing to be recognised as a harmful trend and dealt with as a whole. In other words, it's a planned approach that's required rather than just reacting in silos to different incidents. That's what's lacking at the moment. The Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, must also now enforce the data protection regulations and insist that every social media auditor registers as a data controller, and the ICO should also enter into arrangements with YouTube for this purpose. YouTube should identify auditing channels and insist that anybody undertaking this activity must provide proof of registration with the ICO. This will introduce some transparency into social media auditing. YouTube needs stronger and more robust policies to deal with auditors who are clearly infringing the privacy of their victims, and action should be taken against auditors who try to circumvent removal of their content and termination of their channels. The police have an important role in this. Contrary to what many people seem to think, auditing is not legal. It's not just the civil wrongs that auditors commit, such as simple trespass and breaches of the data protection regulations. Auditors also act contrary to the criminal law. Auditing is an illegal and criminal activity in many cases, and nearly always involves the commission of civil wrongs. There is plenty of scope for police action against auditors using existing laws and existing powers. As a first step, the police should develop a policy on social media auditors that is quite separate to photographers. Although the National Police Chiefs Council did back in 2021 issue initial guidance for forces on social media auditors, one of the basic problems is that both that guidance and the policies of the various forces on public photography are not fully distinguishing between photographers and auditors. Instead, they are generally lumping the two together. That needs to change. The lack of a coherent policy, in my view, serves some way to explain the clumsiness and ineffectiveness of the police in dealing with auditors. Officers lack a framework of understanding and a language to address the trend and police it effectively to protect the innocent public. The police must start enforcing existing laws and push the CPS to prosecute auditors, even if the offences seem minor or trivial. It all adds up, and when prosecutions are brought, an important point to consider is that there is a very important power available to the criminal courts that could stop auditors in their tracks, if it is used properly.
So I just thought I'd better keep you up to date on, well, where we've been, what's going on. So, for those of you who've been here for, well, any longer than 8 months, or maybe some that have watched enough videos in that time, will remember 8 months ago on the 4th of August last year, myself, Liv 3.5 Taylor, were convicted under Section 58 of the Prison Act, where we were basically done for taking images inside a prison and smuggling a phone into a prison. And as of since then, so for the last 8 months, we've had a criminal behaviour order pending.
A criminal behaviour order, known as a CBO, which is what Marti refers to there, is an order that a criminal court can impose on an offender that he will not undertake certain specified activity that could lead to him reoffending. CBOs are similar to the old ASBOs, which they replaced, but they go somewhat further and can include requirements on the offender as well as prohibitions on activity and behaviour. These requirements could include a requirement to, say, hand over photographic equipment, where it can be shown that this is likely to be used in the commission of further offences. It is also no longer necessary to prove that the order will protect the public. Instead, it's only necessary to show that the order will prevent the offender from reoffending. The CBO does not have to be linked to the offence itself. The offender subject to a CBO could have been convicted of anything. The only requirement is that it can be shown that he has engaged in behaviour that caused or is likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress up to a year prior to the conviction, irrespective of whether that was linked to the offence itself. CBOs can be imposed for a fixed period of 2 years or more. It is possible to impose CBOs of indefinite duration, though I would imagine that will be rare. I will not go into the detail of the law here, that's not the purpose of the video. For those who are interested, I've included in the video description a link to the relevant law, which is contained in Part 1 of the Sentencing Act 2020, otherwise known as the Sentencing Code, which you can read at your leisure. In addition to CBOs, there's also something called the Community Protection Notice, or CPN, which is a civil order that can be issued by a constable or local authority. Again, I won't be going into this in detail, but will just say that a CPN can be issued against someone who is behaving persistently in a way that is detrimental to the quality of life of those in the locality. The key point is that this must be behaviour in the locality, and so CPNs will probably be a less relevant measure against most auditors, but some auditors do carry out their visits in their immediate local area sometimes, so it could be used against them. The advantage of using CPNs is that they can be imposed even when there has been no criminal offence. The powers include a requirement that the person subject to the CPN stop the behaviour, and also include a power to confiscate any items that are being used to commit the antisocial acts, so that could include photographic equipment. It's an offence not to comply with the CPN, so CPNs can be criminally enforced, ultimately. Again, for those who want to look at the law, I've included in the video description a link to Part 4 of Chapter 1 of the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014.
Just a reminder of what the police are wanting and the CPS. They want to ban Marti, Arthur and Liv 3 from filming on any police property, filming on any prison property and filming on any court property or premises. Also, they want to add a clause into the CBO which states if you are asked to stop filming by a police officer in the execution of his duties, then you must do so, and by doing so you are not able to upload that said video to any sort of social media platform, internet, any blah 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 blah. That's what they want. We're putting up a very strong fight to oppose as much of that as possible.
Marti filmed that just prior to the final hearing that would decide what the terms of the CBO imposed on him would be. What happened at the hearing is that the court did grant the 5-year CBO that the police wanted, but it was restricted to police stations and prisons, whereas they'd also wanted it for courts. That explains why you never see Marti Blagborough visiting police stations and prisons anymore. He's banned from photographing or filming those places under the terms of his CBO, which was granted in April 2023 and does not expire until April 2028. We need more CBOs from the courts against auditors, including another one against Marti Blagborough. A CBO should be imposed on every single auditor, banning them from photographing or filming not just police stations, prisons, courts and other official locations, those as well, but also any commercial premises where auditors have not received prior consent to go and film. Obviously, the courts do have to be careful not to infringe the civil liberties of these people. You can't ban them from filming or photographing anywhere at all. That would not be fair, and it probably wouldn't be legal either, but something along those lines is now needed. Ultimately, the answer is with the police, the ICO and YouTube. If the police and the ICO would only enforce existing laws and be that bit more aggressive in enforcing laws and issuing cautions and words of advice to auditors, most auditors would stop, and those that persisted would receive CBOs from the courts. YouTube must start removing or demonetising channels, and this need not affect other content creators. The offending channels are easily identifiable. One reason I insist on calling auditors by the name they use for themselves, i.e. auditors, is that it makes them so easily distinguishable from more legitimate content creators. I would not support any changes in the law, as this would only harm our civil liberties, especially photography rights. If the authorities won't act, what then? I would rather not answer that question at this point. It is possible that private prosecutions could be brought by myself and others against auditors. I know how to do it, but I'm hoping that direct action along those lines to protect our rights won't be necessary. Let me repeat, just the enforcement of existing laws, supported by a strategic approach to the problem from the police, ICO and YouTube, preferably working together, would be enough, and is easily doable with little impact on resources.